As the gathering progressed, Yi Kuai, with a gleam in his eye, spoke to City Lord Chen, acknowledging the audacity of Li Feiyu, a newcomer daring to provoke Profound End City's top gladiator, Feng Wuchen. A promising young warrior, City Lord Chen, Yi Kuai noted. Chen Yang, recognizing the fragility of Green Goat City's standing, agreed, expressing his intent to nurture such talent. The crowd's focus now shifted to the arena, where Zhu Ziwan and Jin Dong clashed briefly. Few dared to bet on Jin Dong, for Zhu Ziwan's victory seemed certain. The true excitement was centered on Han Li's match against Feng Wuchen, a battle where the odds were stacked overwhelmingly in favor of the latter. Han Li, a mysterious underdog, had captured the imaginations of many, but few believed he could overcome the might of Profound End City's pride. Among the spectators, Gu Chan's voice reached Han Li's ears through a private transmission, her request dark and dangerous: harm Feng Wuchen severely, perhaps even end his life. Han Li, accustomed to the scheming of the great powers, was unfazed. His thoughts lingered on the animosity between Gu Chanzhen and Profound End City as he acknowledged her words. In the stands, Toxic Dragon and his companions observed Han Li with a mix of curiosity and apprehension. Yao Li, once skeptical of Han Li's abilities, now felt the weight of her misjudgments. Despite the distance, she questioned whether Han Li could truly defeat Feng Wuchen. Toxic Dragon's response was hesitant, while Yi Lia scoffed, dismissing Han Li's chances outright. As the two gladiators took their places, Zhu Ziwan's bone armor shimmered with starlight, his spear a beacon of deadly power. Jin Gong, the towering brute from Profound End City, stood opposite him, muscles rippling beneath his green-tinted fur. The crowd roared in anticipation, but the battle quickly descended into a farce as Zhu Ziwan, ever the patient mentor, scolded Jin Gong for his overblown theatrics. With a subtle nod, Zhu Ziwan instructed his pupil to rein in his power, a lesson well learned. Meanwhile, Han Li and Feng Wuchen faced each other, the tension palpable in the air. Feng Wuchen, arrogant as ever, offered Han Li the chance to surrender, but Han Li, calm and unfazed, rejected the offer. With a flick of his wrist, Feng Wuchen vanished, launching a series of lightning-fast strikes. The battle erupted into a flurry of motion, each blow an explosion of power. Han Li, unruffled, danced out of harm's way, matching Feng Wuchen's speed with his own mastery of wingform ascension arts. The spectacle, though thrilling at first, soon bored the spectators, who began to jeer as the battle became a blur of flashing light and explosions. Then, in a sudden stillness, both combatants halted, their gazes locked in a fiery contest of wills. "Stop running like a coward!" Feng Wuchen sneered, but Han Li, with a wry smile, shot back. "Maybe you'd catch me if you weren't so slow." The air was thick with tension as Feng Wuchen, his face twisted in fury, seized the hilt of his willow leaf sword. With a swift motion, the blade split into two, one in each hand, and his arms began to sway, as if in harmony with the winds, each sword flickering like delicate willow branches caught in a breeze. Radiant white sub-branches of star power bloomed from the blades, and the swords now resembled the flowing branches of willows. Han Li, his gaze sharp, narrowed his eyes but remained unmoving, unwilling to make the first move. Without warning, Feng Wuchen unleashed his attack. Hundreds of star-powered willow branches surged forward, like a tempest of steel, aiming to strike Han Li. In response, Han Li's eyes glimmered, and he darted backward, the winds whipped up by his movements redirecting the storm of sword projections that now pursued him with even greater speed. Yet, to his surprise, Han Li showed no sign of fear, his calm unshaken. With a deliberate motion, Han Li extended his hand, and a small, white shield emerged from his sleeve, hovering before him. It shimmered, its surface glowing with 18 radiant star designs, quivering as though containing a force on the brink of eruption. The oncoming storm of willow leaf sword projections slammed against the shield, sending violent ripples through space as the two forces clashed. The light barrier began to tremble, shrinking inch by inch, yet Han Li remained undaunted, his composure a stark contrast to the mounting chaos. Then, with a roar that echoed like thunder, Han Li's body surged with profound energy. Acupoints, hidden until now, began to glow in rapid succession, and soon 138 points of power blazed across his form. A mighty dragon projection burst forth from the star shield's designs, swelling in size as it coiled around Han Li, its roar shattering the air. The force from the dragon rippled outward, annihilating the willow leaf sword projections into starlight, causing Feng Wuchen's confident grin to falter. The surrounding observers gasped in shock. Yao Li's hand covered her mouth, and even Toxic Dragon's eyes widened. Yi Lia clenched his fists, his face a mask of conflict, while Gu Chunshun smiled faintly from afar. Chen Yang, seeing Han Li's power revealed, sighed in internal relief, now understanding the depth of his abilities. "You concealed your power well, Li Feiyu," remarked Yi Kuai, raising an eyebrow. "Indeed," Chen Yang replied, his tone calm, though his mind raced. As tension mounted, Feng Wuchen scoffed and disappeared from sight, his form blurring as he circled Han Li, unleashing even more deadly sword projections. Yet Han Li's defenses held firm, his calm unshaken. The battle raged on, and Feng Wuchen's expression darkened. At last, he stopped, 150 profound acupoints lighting up across his body. The air charged with energy as starry runes began to materialize along his swords. A radiant wave of white light surged from the blades, and Feng Wuchen hurled them forward with a shout, the swords slicing through the air like beams of pure light. The collision was cataclysmic. Han Li, his resolve steeled, thrust both palms forward, his own profound acupoints flaring with power. The star shield expanded, meeting the oncoming blade with a thunderous crash. Space itself cracked and warped under the force, and Han Li felt the faintest of cracks appear on the shield's surface. The barrier trembled, faltering against the onslaught. Feng Wuchen's smile grew wider, sensing his victory. His willow leaf sword became an extension of his will, launching wave after wave of sword projections that shredded Han Li's defenses. Yet, even as the sword storm tore into Han Li's robes, a glimmer of light flickered beneath the fabric. The true extreme film, his last defense, held strong, the sword strikes rebounding harmlessly. Feng Wuchen, his expression twisted in triumph, gathered his power. The willow leaf sword glowed with 21 star acupoints, his aura swelling to a terrifying crescendo. In a blink, he reappeared before Han Li, sword raised, aimed at his exposed abdomen. A final strike was imminent. The battle raged with an intensity that could rival the most vicious storms. Feng Wuchen's strike aimed to end the fight in one blow. His sword sliced through the air, but Han Li, with the swiftness of a falcon, countered, his shield meeting the assault. The instant the clash occurred, star-like runes burst forth from Feng Wuchen's blade, doubling its size and power. The shield groaned under the weight of the attack, cracking with a deafening sound as the pressure mounted. Han Li's eyes narrowed in focus as he abandoned the shield, propelling himself into the air with a sudden surge, narrowly avoiding the sword light that glinted perilously close to his face. Feng Wuchen smirked, his voice dripping with arrogance as he leapt after Han Li, the stars in his acupoints flaring like a constellation coming alive. In that moment, his sword was an unstoppable comet of starlight, streaking toward Han Li with unimaginable speed. Yet, in the midst of this attack, Han Li performed the unthinkable. His legs ignited with power, drawing on the wingform ascension arts, and with two sharp thuds, he was off, twisting through the air as though gravity no longer held him. A stunned cry escaped Feng Wuchen's lips, his strike missing its target by mere inches, and the audience erupted in a wave of astonishment. Even those on the elevated platform could scarcely believe what they had just witnessed. But Han Li did not retreat. He turned with unmatched grace, his acupoints ablaze, his body gathering power as he rushed towards Feng Wuchen like a tempest. With his profound strength, he charged forth, the gathering energy emanating from him like a dragon's roar. Feng Wuchen's expression soured, his confidence turning to wariness as he formed his final desperate weapon. Two swords, their star acupoints blazing, combined into one massive blade of starlight. His entire being surged with power, intending to obliterate his foe with an all-or-nothing strike. But Han Li remained calm, his palm lowered with fluid precision, bending the very fabric of space as he defied the oncoming sword. Time seemed to slow as his hand collided with the sword's tip, and in that instant, the massive sword shattered, turning to starlight dust, while Feng Wuchen's twin blades were also reduced to fragments. With a final decisive blow, Han Li's palm landed on Feng Wuchen's shoulder, breaking through his defenses. A protective armor of bone shattered beneath Han Li's assault, and blood, bone, and muscle erupted in a shower of crimson. Feng Wuchen was sent crashing down, his body crumpling into unconsciousness, leaving only a broken platform in his wake. Before Han Li could claim his victory, a sudden roar echoed from above. Qin Yuan descended from the sky, fury and bloodlust burning in his eyes. As the platform splintered under his landing, the crowd grew silent. But Han Li remained unfazed, his gaze cold as Qin Yuan rushed to retrieve the fallen Feng Wuchen. With a simple gesture, Han Li conceded to Yi Kuai's request for mercy, stepping back and allowing the scene to settle. The city lord's words were laced with authority, but the underlying tension of the moment lingered. The battle was over, but the ripples of its aftermath would echo far beyond the platform's shattered remains. The crowd, unable to contain their emotions, cheered Han Li's victory, though the true power of his display would linger in their hearts for much longer. Meanwhile, on the distant platforms, Zhu Ziyuan's battle concluded with a swift strike, his opponent sent tumbling in defeat, leaving no doubt of his superiority. The battles continued, but none could match the spectacle that had just unfolded. Amidst the thunderous anticipation of the spectators, Gu Chanshan and Fang Chan stood facing each other on their respective platforms, a rare and heated battle between two great champions. Han Li, keen on observing, chose to remain among the crowd, his eyes scanning the arena. "I have learned much from our previous encounter, fellow Taoist Fang," Gu Chanshun declared, her voice calm but carrying the weight of a fierce determination. "I had assumed it would be at least the semifinals before we faced again, but fate has sped us towards this rematch." Fang Chan, his expression now sharpened and filled with an unyielding fire, responded, "I too am honored, fellow Taoist Gu." With the referee's cry of "Begin!" Gu Chanshun surged forward with the swiftness of a striking falcon, her foot smashing the ground beneath her. In an instant, she closed the distance of 100 feet, her delicate fist glowing with the radiance of 20 to 30 profound acupoints, releasing a tempest of force that shattered the air around her. A flicker of surprise crossed Fang Chan's face, but his reaction was swift. His fist met hers with a resounding explosion that sent shockwaves across the arena. The clash of their strength rattled the earth, and Fang Chan was forced back, leaving deep footprints and cracks in his wake. Yet, his resolve only hardened. The clash did not end there. Gu Chanshun's sleeve tore apart, revealing a shimmering rainbow armband on her arm, adorned with 21 points of white light, as if the stars themselves had been embedded in her flesh. "A conjoined star artifact!" exclaimed Yi Kuai in astonishment. "I had believed such a weapon was but a dream." Mistress Lu Hua, a master of weapon refinement, smiled faintly. "It took nearly 100,000 years, but I have perfected it," she said, her voice laced with pride. Han Li's gaze shifted, intrigued by this weapon that defied the limits of common understanding. The conjoined star artifact, as explained by Chen Yang, fused with the body, augmenting the user's physical strength without cost or refinement. Without hesitation, Gu Chanshun pressed on. Her bone belt transformed into a gleaming golden spear, its edge singing through the air as it aimed for Fang Chan's face. Yet Fang Chan, undeterred, summoned two large black axes from the void, their weight crashing against her spear, sending ripples of energy that shook the platform beneath them. Gu Chanshun, her movements fluid as water, spun with grace, launching a storm of golden spear projections at Fang Chan. But Fang Chan was a beast in his own right, his axes spinning in a whirl of black fury, deflecting the strikes with precision and unleashing his own brutal counterattacks. Their battle was a dance of life and death, the sound of clashing weapons filling the air like the cries of war. As they fought, wounds began to mark their bodies. Gu Chanshan's abdomen torn open, Fang Chan's skin pierced in several places, but neither showed any sign of slowing down. The platform groaned beneath their power, buckling under the weight of their fierce struggle. Fang Chan, realizing he was being pushed to the edge, unleashed his final gambit. A burst of white sound waves erupted from his mouth, sweeping toward Gu Chanshun, yet she was ready, evading the attack with a swiftness that defied the natural order. The sound waves, however, wreaked havoc on the spectators, leaving them numb and breathless. Gu Chanshun, having dodged the brunt of the attack, felt the residual effects, her body stiffening, her face paling. But then, like a phoenix rising from the ashes, her bloodline surged to life. With a renewed vigor, she pressed her assault, her golden spear thrusting into Fang Chan's side, leaving a deep wound. Fang Chen, enraged, swelled in size, his body transforming into a monstrous, beast-like form, his wounds healing as crimson energy flared from his profound acupoints. The earth itself trembled beneath his newfound power as the platform cracked under the strain. The battle had escalated beyond mortal limits, and the spectators watched, transfixed by the clash of titans. Fang Chan's eyes gleamed with a wild, animalistic fervor as he laughed. I had planned to save this for Zhu Yuan, but you'll be the first to taste it. His form twisted grotesquely, and Gu Chanshun, unfazed, lunged at him with her golden spear, aiming for his back. But the crimson aura surrounding him halted her strike, the spear sliding off as if it were nothing. In retaliation, Fang Chan swung his axes with terrifying force, the clash of metal sending shockwaves through the air. Gu Chanshun staggered back, her grip almost lost. Before she could regain her stance, Fang Chan closed the distance in the blink of an eye. His axes descending like two crashing mountains, his crimson energy surged, warping the very air around him. Gu Chanshun nimbly dodged, narrowly escaping the axe's fury that shattered the platform beneath them. The onlookers scattered, and Han Li withdrew with the rest, watching from a distance. Fang Chan was a demon unleashed, swinging his axes in a frenzied blur, the ground beneath him torn apart. Gu Chanshun danced like a leaf on the wind, avoiding every lethal strike, though the surrounding chaos was overwhelming. With each swing, the crimson light around him dimmed, revealing his growing frustration. He roared in fury and launched a final, dual strike at her, axes aiming to end the battle. In a flash, Gu Chanshun twisted midair, her golden spear threading between the axe's arcs and reaching for Fang Chan's throat. Yet Fang Chan was no fool. He intercepted her attack, axes forming a barrier, and released a blast of white sound waves and crimson arrows, a torrent of destruction that filled the air. The arrows shrieked as they streaked toward Gu Chanshun, but in an instant she evaded, the speed of her movement almost supernatural. Fang Chan, caught off guard, turned to react, but agony twisted his features as the crimson energy within him trembled. Seizing the opportunity, Gu Chanshun surged forward, her arms swelling with power, thrusting the spear at his temple with deadly precision. But just before the strike could land, a flash of white light intercepted her, knocking the spear aside. Gu Chanshun's eyes narrowed as she held the spear firmly, looking toward the elevated platform where Ikwai stood. He lowered his hand and with a calm voice declared, "The victor is Gu Chanshun of Green Goat City." She gave a respectful salute, retracting her spear, which transformed into a golden chain that she coiled around her waist. Fang Chan, his form returning to normal, grinned weakly. "I underestimated you, but next time it will be different." The crowd, which had been fleeing moments before, erupted into thunderous applause, particularly the Green Goat City cultivators who swarmed to congratulate her. Han Li, still observing, reflected on her final maneuver with a thoughtful expression. Ikwai, motioning for calm, raised his voice. "The five-city martial gathering is hereby suspended. Everyone, return to your homes. Stay there unless absolutely necessary." His words rang through the arena, halting all movement. The spectators were frozen in confusion, while the black-robed man who had arrived with urgent news swiftly departed. The city lords, now uneasy, shared worried glances as the deep drums of Profound City began to sound, signaling something dire. "The heavenly might war drum," murmured Chen Yang, his face grim. "Is the city under attack?" Sun Tu, equally concerned, speculated. "It could be Puppet City. If so, they've chosen an interesting moment." Han Li, his gaze distant, remained silent as the arena emptied. Gu Chanshun nodded toward the others. "We should follow City Lordie's orders and retreat." With that, the group began to depart, unaware of the storm brewing beyond the city's walls.